I didn't find out from a lawyer or a bank or anything official. I found out because my name wasn't on the door. It sounds stupid when I say it like that. But I remember standing there, staring at the frosted glass, rereading the same two words over and over again. His name. Only his name. No. And company. No. Partners. No, me. For 5 years I thought I was building something with my best friend. For 5 years I thought we were equals. I even joked once that if anything ever happened between us, at least we'd have the business to fight over like a divorced couple. He laughed. God, he laughed so easily back then. Before all of this, my life was stable. Not perfect, but predictable in a comforting way. Married, 1 kid, small apartment, long hours. The business was supposed to be our way out of just surviving. And I trusted him. Completely. That's the part one still can't forgive myself for. Not what he did, but how long I didn't see it. We met at a job we both hated. Same department, same complaints, same late-night rants over cheap beer about. One day doing something real. It started as venting, then turned into planning, then, suddenly we were signing papers, opening accounts, dreaming out loud like idiots. He was charismatic. That's important. People liked him instantly. Clients trusted him. I was more careful, quieter, the one who handled numbers, logistics, the boring but necessary parts. We balanced each other. At least, that's what I told myself. My wife liked him too. Maybe too much, but I never thought anything of it. He'd come over for dinner, bring wine, play with my kid like some cool uncle. He fit into my life so seamlessly it felt natural. There were moments, though. Small ones. Like how he always insisted on handling paperwork, because he knew a guy. Or how he'd brush off questions with jokes. I ignored it. Because trusting him was easier than questioning everything we were building. The business grew faster than I expected. Not wildly successful, but enough that we moved into a real office. Not just laptops at kitchen tables anymore. We had a sign, clients walking in, actual employees. It felt real. And that's when things started to shift. He became distant. Not in an obvious way. He still showed up, still joked, still acted like everything was normal. But there were gaps. Missed calls. Handled it already. Answers. Conversations I wasn't included in. At home, things were changing too. My wife started asking about him more. Not in a suspicious way, just casual curiosity. How he was doing, if he was stressed, if we were getting along. I remember thinking it was nice she cared. Now I replay those conversations and feel sick. There was one night I walked into the living room and they were laughing over something on her phone. It stopped when I came in. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself a lot of things back then. Almost all of them were wrong. The first real crack came from something stupid. An email. Not even sent to me, just accidentally forwarded in a thread. I wasn't meant to see it. It was from a lawyer. Addressed only to him. Talking about sole ownership confirmation. I stared at it for a long time, trying to make sense of the wording. Thinking maybe it was outdated, or a draft, or something administrative I didn't understand. I didn't confront him immediately. That's something I regret. Instead, I asked casually the next day, like it wasn't eating me alive. Hey, quick question, how is ownership structured again? Like legally? He didn't even hesitate. 50-50, obviously. He smiled when he said it. That easy, confident smile. And I believed him. Even with that email sitting in my inbox. Even with that knot forming in my chest. Because admitting the alternative meant admitting I might have been played from the start. And I wasn't ready for that. After that, I started noticing everything. Every conversation he ended quickly. Every document I wasn't copied on. Every time he said, "Don't worry, I've got it handled." It stopped sounding reassuring. It started sounding like a wall. I tried to access some of our official records one night. Banking, registration, anything with legal documentation. And that's when I hit another wall. Restricted access. My own business. I remember sitting there, refreshing the page like it might suddenly fix itself. My hands were shaking, but I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. There's always an explanation, right? That's what people say when they don't want the truth. At home, things were off too. My wife had started guarding her phone. Subtle, but noticeable. Late-night messages. Smiles she didn't explain. I didn't connect the dots yet. I wish I could say I was smarter than that. But I wasn't. I was just comfortable being blind. The moment everything really started collapsing wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No big reveal. Just silence. I walked into the office early one morning, earlier than usual. I had barely slept, my mind stuck on that email, those locked accounts, everything. The door was unlocked. Inside, he was already there. On the phone. He didn't see me. Yeah, it's just my company. No partners involved. I froze. He said it so casually. Like it was nothing. Like I didn't exist. I should have walked in right then. I should have confronted him immediately. Instead, I stood there like an idiot, listening. Yeah, cleaner that way. Cleaner. That word stuck in my head like a knife. I backed out quietly before he saw me. Sat in my car for almost an hour afterward. Trying to convince myself I misunderstood. Trying to hold on to anything that didn't mean what I knew it meant. But something had already broken. And I couldn't unhear it. I finally confronted him that afternoon. Not calm, not rational, just done pretending. What do you mean it's just your company? He blinked at me, like I'd asked something ridiculous. What? I heard you this morning. On the phone. There was a pause. Just a second. But it was enough. Then he sighed. Actually sighed. Like I was the inconvenience. It's complicated. I laughed. I couldn't help it. No, it's not. Either I'm your partner or I'm not. Another pause. You're involved, he said carefully. Involved. That word hit harder than anything else. I built this with you, I said. What does involved mean? He rubbed his face, like he was tired of the conversation already. Legally, it's under my name. That was it. No apology. No hesitation. Just the truth. And somehow, that was worse than if he tried to lie. I don't remember everything I said after that. I know I shouted. I know I asked how long. I know I said his name like it meant something. He stayed calm the whole time. That's what still makes me angry. You never asked? He said at one point. Like that justified anything. You told me we were partners. And we are. Functionally. Functionally. I felt like I was going insane. Functionally doesn't mean anything if I have zero legal rights. He shrugged. Shrugged. It was just easier this way at the start. And then, it worked. Worked. For him. I remember asking. So what happens if you decide to cut me out? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. That silence said everything. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I had built my entire future on trust. And legally, I had nothing. I went home early that day. I don't even remember the drive. Everything felt distant, like I was watching my own life from somewhere else. When I walked in, my wife was in the kitchen. She smiled at me. Asked why I was home so early. Normal. Everything looked normal. And suddenly, that felt wrong. I don't know why I asked what I asked next. Maybe I just needed something else to make sense. Have you been talking to him a lot lately? Her expression changed. Just slightly. But I saw it. What do you mean? I mean messaging, calls, anything. Too casual. Too careful. She turned back to the sink. We're friends, aren't we? That knot in my chest tightened. Yeah, I said slowly. We are. But something in the room shifted. Something unspoken. And for the first time, a thought crossed my mind that I didn't want to examine. So I didn't. Not yet. The second betrayal came 2 days later. And somehow, it hurt more. I wasn't looking for it. That's the worst part. I had borrowed her laptop because mine was at the office. She said it was fine. She forgot to log out of her messages. I didn't mean to read them. I really didn't. But I saw his name. And once you see something like that, you don't unsee it. The messages weren't subtle. They weren't even trying to hide. Inside jokes. Late-night conversations. Things that crossed lines I didn't even realize had been approached. And then, I wish things were different. I know. That was enough. I didn't need anything explicit. I didn't need proof beyond that. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling like the air had been sucked out of the room. 2 betrayals. Same person. And suddenly everything made sense. Every glance. Every laugh. Every coincidence. I wasn't just losing a business. I was losing everything at once. I confronted her that night, but it didn't feel like courage. It felt like pressure building until something had to break. I didn't plan it. I didn't rehearse anything. I just walked into the room, saw her sitting there scrolling her phone like nothing in my life was collapsing, and something inside me snapped. Are you talking to him behind my back? She froze immediately. That pause again. I hate that pause now. It's like watching someone decide how honest they can afford to be. It's not like that, she said. But she didn't look at me when she said it. I stepped closer. Then what is it like? Silence. Just the sound of the sink dripping in the kitchen, like the house itself was waiting for the answer. Her eyes were glassy now, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or panic. Or just fear of being caught. I used to know how to read her. Now I couldn't read anything. We didn't mean for it to happen, she finally said. That sentence again. The same excuse people use when they want to erase responsibility without erasing the damage. Didn't mean what exactly? I didn't even want to ask, but I did anyway. Because part of me still needed the full destruction, like I couldn't accept half-truths anymore. How long? Her voice broke before she answered. A few months. A few months. While I was building the company. While I was sitting in meetings with him. While I was thanking him for being a brother to me. While I was trusting both of them with the most private parts of my life. I laughed again. Not because it was funny. Because it was the only sound I had left that wasn't collapsing into something worse. You really thought I wouldn't notice? I said quietly. She finally looked at me then, and I saw it clearly. She didn't think that. She just didn't think it would matter until it did. And somehow, that was worse. Because it meant I was never part of the equation they were living in. The confrontation with both of them the next day wasn't planned like a strategy. It was more like an eruption that I couldn't delay anymore. I texted him early in the morning. Just told him to come over. No explanation. He replied almost instantly, which told me he already knew this moment was coming. When he arrived, he didn't act surprised. That was the first thing that made me feel sick. He walked into my apartment like a man entering a meeting he had already prepared for internally. Calm, controlled, almost rehearsed. She was already there. I didn't tell her to come. I didn't need to. The air in the room was unbearable before anyone even spoke. I know, I said. That was it. 2 words. And everything inside the room changed. She started crying immediately. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears like she'd been holding them back for too long. He stayed quiet at first. Then he tried to take control of the narrative. It wasn't planned, he said. You have to understand that. Stop, I interrupted. My voice surprised even me. Just stop talking. Because I realized something in that moment. I didn't care about their explanation. Not even a little. I didn't want to understand how it happened. I wanted to understand how I missed it. How long? I asked him. He hesitated. Not because he didn't know. Because he was deciding how honest he could afford to be with me now. Months, he finally said. Same word. Same damage. I looked at him and felt something shift permanently. Like whatever bond one thought we had wasn't just broken, it had been fictional from the beginning. You stole my company, I said slowly. And you stole my life at the same time. He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue semantics again. But nothing came out. For the first time, he had nothing rehearsed left. After that day, nothing exploded dramatically like in movies. No screaming matches that ended things cleanly. No decisive walkouts. It was worse than that. Everything just continued. We became people living parallel lives in the same space, avoiding each other's emotional gravity. At work, I still showed up every day. I told myself I had to. There were employees depending on stability, clients depending on continuity. But the truth was simpler and uglier. I didn't know how to leave something I had spent years building, even if it wasn't mine anymore. He was there too. Of course he was. Running everything like nothing had changed. Smiling in meetings. Making decisions. Acting like I was just another employee who had once been important but wasn't anymore. That was its own kind of humiliation. At home, silence became the default language. We talked only when necessary. Bills. School. Schedule. Nothing personal. Nothing human. She told me it was over between them. I didn't argue. I didn't ask for proof. I just nodded, because I had stopped believing in statements that couldn't be verified. But sometimes I would see her phone light up at night, and I'd feel that old instinct rise again. Not jealousy exactly. Something closer to exhaustion. Like I didn't have the energy left to be hurt in new ways. Our kids started noticing the distance before I admitted it to myself. Why don't you and Mom talk anymore? They asked once. I didn't have an answer that wouldn't break something. So I just said, we're tired. It wasn't a lie. But it wasn't the truth either. The legal fight came later, once the emotional shock turned into something colder and more structured. Anger without direction eventually tries to become paperwork. I hired lawyers. Multiple consultations. Each one felt like slowly repeating a sentence that got worse every time I said it out loud. I built a company I don't legally own. They'd nod. Ask for documents. Ask for contracts. That's where it always ended. Because there were none. Or rather, there was one, signed in a way I never fully questioned at the time, buried in early setup chaos, framed as temporary simplicity. A phrase I now understand means irreversible mistake. One lawyer didn't sugarcoat it. You trusted the wrong person, he said. I remember staring at him for a long time after that. Not because it was insightful. Because it was so casually final. Like he was commenting on weather, not the collapse of a life. At home, we tried therapy. Or at least we sat in the same room while someone asked us questions we both avoided answering properly. Do you want to repair this relationship? The therapist asked once. Neither of us answered immediately. Because the honest answer was complicated. I didn't know if I wanted to repair it. I just didn't know what else I was supposed to do with it. Some nights I think about leaving everything behind. Just walking away from both the business and the marriage, starting somewhere where no one knows my name. But then I think about what I'd actually be leaving. And I realize I already lost most of it without moving an inch. There's no clean ending to this. No final confrontation that fixes everything. No courtroom moment where truth restores balance. No dramatic exit where I reclaim my life in a satisfying way. Just continuation. The business still exists. He still runs it. I still show up. We speak when necessary, professionally, like two people who have agreed to pretend history doesn't exist in order to function in the present. My marriage still exists too, in a technical sense. We share a home, a child, routines. But emotionally, it feels like we're co-managing the remains of something that stopped being alive a long time ago. Some days are almost normal. That's what scares me most. Because normal is what made all of this possible in the first place. I think about that early version of me often, the one who believed partnership meant loyalty, who believed love and trust were enough to protect you from manipulation. I don't know if I was naive or just unlucky. Maybe both. If I could go back, I don't even know what warning sign would be enough. Because the betrayal didn't announce itself. It didn't arrive as one moment. It arrived as a series of small permissions I gave without realizing what they added up to. And now I live with the result. Not as a tragedy that ended, but as a life that kept going anyway.